Two young Mormon missionaries, Sister Paxton and Sister Barnes, walk the streets of a quiet neighborhood, their hands clutching small booklets, their smiles unwavering. Door after door is shut in their faces. Some people ignore them entirely. Others offer polite but firm refusals. The sun is setting, and dark clouds begin to gather overhead. A sudden crack of thunder rumbles through the sky. They check their list. One last house remains. A modest home at the end of the street. Isolated, almost too quiet. Desperate to make one last effort before heading back, they approach and knock. After a moment, the door creaks open, revealing a kind-looking elderly man. His face is wrinkled with age, his demeanor warm and inviting. "Oh, my wife and I were just about to sit down for some blueberry pie. Would you care to come in out of the rain?" The scent of fresh pie wafts from inside, comforting yet strangely overpowering. Paxton and Barnes exchange a glance before stepping over the threshold. Inside, the house is old-fashioned, dimly lit. A single candle flickers on the coffee table, casting long shadows against the walls. "My wife is very shy," Reed says, handing them each a towel. "She's in the kitchen, but she'll join us soon." The girls smile politely, sitting down on the floral-patterned couch. Then the questions begin. "So, tell me," Reed says, leaning forward, "what are your thoughts on polygamy?" The mood shifts. Paxton and Barnes hesitate. The question is out of place, uncomfortable. "We don't practice polygamy," Barnes responds carefully. "That was in the past." Reed chuckles. "That's not entirely true, though, is it?" He talks about Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, and his many wives. He challenges their beliefs, questioning if they've been brainwashed. Paxton shifts uncomfortably. The warm, welcoming air has turned suffocating. Then Barnes notices something odd. The blueberry pie they've been smelling? It isn't coming from the kitchen. It's coming from the candle. Barnes' stomach tightens. Something is wrong. "Actually, we should get going," she says, standing abruptly. Reed's expression doesn't change. He smiles. "But my wife hasn't come out yet." Barnes grabs Paxton's hand. "It's late. We really should—" Click. The front door is locked. The girls freeze. "Oh," Reed says casually. "The locks are on a timer. They won't open until morning." Paxton's breath catches in her throat. She reaches for her phone. No signal. "Metal walls," Reed explains, still smiling. "No calls in, no calls out." The realization sinks in. They are trapped. With a twisted grin, Mr. Reed gestures toward the hallway. "Come now," he says, his voice eerily calm. "You must meet her." Paxton and Barnes hesitate, their instincts screaming at them to run. But the front door is locked. The windows are barred. There is nowhere else to go. Slowly, they follow him down the dark, narrow corridor. The dim candlelight flickers, casting twisting shadows along the walls. At the end of the hallway, two doors stand before them, one labeled Belief, the other Disbelief. "The choice is yours," Reed says. "Which path will you take?" Barnes clenches her fists. She doesn't trust him, not for a second. But Paxton? She's trembling. "Please, just let us go," she begs. Reed chuckles. "Oh, but you are going, my dear. This is your journey." Barnes tries to hold her back, but Paxton reaches out and pushes open the Belief door. The hinges groan as it swings inward, revealing a staircase leading down. The air grows colder as they descend, the walls narrowing around them. The scent of dust and decay clings to every breath. At the bottom, a single candle flickers in the darkness, revealing a woman in tattered robes. She sits cross-legged on the cold stone floor, her frail body trembling. Her sunken eyes stare ahead, as if trapped in some waking nightmare. "This," Reed whispers, stepping forward, "is our prophet." Barnes grips Paxton's hand. The woman looks half dead. Bones jut through her skin. Her lips are cracked and dry. The basement has speakers from which Reed commands, "Eat the blueberry pie." The woman doesn't react. "Eat," he repeats, his voice sharper this time. Shaking fingers lift the fork. She takes a bite. At first, nothing. Then, her body locks up. Her back arches violently. Her hands seize into claws. A guttural, unnatural sound rips from her throat. Then, silence. Her body collapses. Paxton gasps, stumbling backward. "You killed her!" she cries. Reed reveals the pie has poison. His smile never fades. "Patience, my dear," he murmurs. "She'll be back." Minutes pass. Barnes clenches her jaw, her nails digging into her palms. Paxton's heartbeat pounds in her ears. Then, the woman gasps. Her eyes snap open. She sits up, her head jerking unnaturally. Her voice, raspy and hollow, whispers two chilling words. "It's not real." Paxton and Barnes freeze. Those words weren't part of Reed's ritual. Something is wrong. This isn't faith. This is something much, much worse. Barnes narrows her eyes at Reed, her breathing sharp and unsteady. "You're lying." Reed tilts his head, his smile unwavering. "My dear, what makes you say that?" Barnes shakes her head, stepping closer to Paxton. "I saw it," she says, voice laced with anger. "The woman you killed never came back. Another took her place." Paxton's stomach twists. She hadn't noticed before, but now? The woman who returned. Her posture was different, her voice slightly off. Reed doesn't deny it. Instead, his smile fades. His eyes darken. "Faith is about belief," he says softly, "not proof." And then, a flash of silver. Barnes gasps. Her eyes widen. Reed steps back, wiping the blade against his sleeve. Blood spills down Barnes's chest. Her knees buckle. She hits the floor, clutching at her throat. Gurgling, choking. Paxton screams. Reed watches without a flicker of remorse. "You shouldn't mourn her," he murmurs. "She was never real to begin with." Paxton shakes her head violently. "What are you talking about?" Reed kneels beside Barnes's twitching body. His hands move with eerie precision, fingers digging into the fresh wound. A sickening squelch. Then, he pulls something out. A small metallic chip slick with blood. He holds it up to the dim light, inspecting it with an expression of twisted satisfaction. "See?" he whispers. "She was never alive. Just another piece of the simulation." Paxton backs away, her head spinning. "You're insane." "This isn't real." Reed tilts his head. "What is reality, Paxton?" he asks. "Is it what you see? What you feel? Or is it what I decide?" Her chest tightens. Her legs tremble. She needs to run. She needs to escape before she becomes his next experiment. Paxton's heart pounds in her chest. Reed steps toward her, his face calm, too calm. "You don't have to be afraid," he murmurs. "Fear is only real if you let it be." She races through the underground tunnels, her mind screaming for an escape. Walls covered in symbols, ancient markings, signs of rituals long forgotten. Some kind of a cult. She stumbles past a room. Candles flicker inside. Strange artifacts litter the floor. A blood-stained altar stands in the center. A sickening realization crashes over her. How many people came before us? She keeps running. Then, a door. A massive iron door sealed shut, with a bicycle padlock. Paxton freezes. Her fingers dig into her pocket. Her key is there. Her key. The one that was switched. The one Reed placed in her coat from the start. This was never a mistake. This was part of his plan. She doesn't hesitate, she unlocks it. The door creaks open, revealing something far worse than she imagined. Cages lining the room. Inside, women, malnourished, weak, their eyes hollow, filled with years of suffering. Some whisper prayers, others stare blankly, their minds long gone. This wasn't just about Barnes. This wasn't just about her. Reed has been collecting them, a twisted congregation forced into submission. Then, a voice behind her. "Now you understand," Reed breathes. Paxton whirls around. He stands in the doorway. He smiles. "What is the one true religion?" He whispers. "Control." Paxton won't listen. She lunges, aiming for his throat. She runs, but all the doors are locked. Soon she realizes she has to go back in the basement to find her way out. But as soon as she goes back, the knife flashes. A sharp pain erupts in her stomach. Paxton gasps. She stumbles back, her vision darkening. Reed catches her. "Shh," he soothes. "It's okay. You'll see the truth soon enough." Paxton's fingers twitch. Her body grows cold. Is this it? Is this how it ends? Paxton's breath comes in shallow gasps. The world around her is fading, her body growing weaker with every second. She can feel the warmth of her own blood pooling beneath her. Reed kneels beside her, watching like a priest at a dying altar. "It's time," he whispers. "Let go, and you'll see the truth." Paxton tries to fight it. Her fingers twitch, grasping for a weapon, for anything, but her body betrays her. Her vision darkens. Is this the end? Then, a shadow moves behind Reed. Before he can react, crack! A splintered wooden plank smashes into his skull, the nail at the tip driving deep into his head. Reed jerks forward, his eyes wide in shock. He gasps, tries to turn, tries to speak. But then, his body slumps. His smile finally disappears. He is dead. And behind him stands Barnes. Blood drips down her face. Her skin is pale, her eyes unfocused. She should be dead. And yet, she fought back. For Paxton. For one last act of defiance. She staggers, looking down at her friend. A weak smile forms. "We made it," she whispers. Then, her legs give out. She falls into Paxton's arms. Paxton catches her, but the moment she does, she knows the truth. Barnes is gone. Tears sting Paxton's eyes, but there's no time to grieve. She forces herself to move, every muscle screaming in pain. With the last of her strength, Paxton crawls through the tunnels, her hands grasping at the cold, damp floor. She stumbles forward, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. Then, a vent. She drags herself inside. She crawls. Then, cold air hits her face. Her fingers touch snow. She emerges from the nightmare. And for the first time in hours, she can breathe. She stares at the dark forest ahead. Alone. Weak, broken, but alive. Then, something small and delicate flutters past her. A butterfly. Paxton watches in awe as the butterfly lands on her hand. A memory flickers in her mind. A moment long ago when she wished to be reincarnated as a butterfly. A life of freedom, a life without chains. The butterfly lingers for a moment, then takes flight, disappearing into the sky. Paxton watches it go. Then she pushes forward, her feet leaving deep imprints in the snow. A survivor, a fighter, and a woman who will never be the same again. At first glance, Heretic seems like a simple survival thriller, a story of two missionaries trapped by a delusional madman. But beneath the surface, it's something far more disturbing. Control versus free will. Reed isn't just a villain, he's a symbol of absolute control. He doesn't just want power over others, he wants to dictate what they believe, what they see, and even how they die. His twisted religion isn't about faith, it's about submission. When he forces the missionaries into his psychological game, he's testing how far people will go to hold on to their beliefs or abandon them completely. Belief versus reality. Reed manipulates reality itself, making Paxton and Barnes question everything, from the so-called resurrection to the idea that they might be living in a simulation. But the biggest question the film asks is, if someone controls the information you see, do you really know what's real? Religious fanaticism and the search for truth. Throughout history, people have followed charismatic leaders into the unknown, some blindly accepting false prophets, cults, and extreme ideologies. Reed represents the dark side of faith, where belief becomes blind obedience and questioning becomes a crime. But in the end, Paxton does what few people trapped in cult-like environments ever do. She questions everything and escapes. The real horror, it's closer than you think. The most chilling part of Heretic isn't the blood or the psychological torture. It's the fact that this could really happen. How many people have been manipulated into false beliefs, trapped in cult-like groups, and told that only their leader knows the truth? The movie forces us to ask, are we ever truly in control of what we believe? How do we separate truth from deception? What did you think about Heretic? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Would you have escaped like Paxton? Or Would you have fallen into Reed's twisted belief system? And while you're here, please comment. What should I recap next? Do you love psychological thrillers like this? Or do you want to see mind-bending horror, shocking plot twists, or survival stories that keep you on the edge of your seat? Let me know what movie you want to see recap next. And if you love thrilling movie recaps, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more intense stories, hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. See you in the next recap.